everyone! Our group was looking into the text Finding the Heart of Nonfiction. Our book started off talking about what a mentor text is, which is something that we've kind of delved into for our own course. A mentor text is a book that students can read, meaning that they can comprehend all of the information or most of the information in the book, but it's also a book that they relate to. It's something that they share an interest or view with the author, and they can see themselves in the text. Mentor texts are also used as exemplars, just meaning that they're really good examples of the craft of writing. These authors are really showing what students can do with their ideas. Mentor texts also help writers see new ways of writing that they want to try in their own writer's notebook and just test things out to become more knowledgeable writers. In choosing a mentor text, you always want variety. So you want to show students different authors, so giving them a look into different backgrounds, different cultures, and different styles of writing from different people. You want to have a variety of language that is used. So is it figurative? Is it really informational and factual? And how do these different types of writing impact the story or the text? You also want different topics, which is kind of self-explanatory. You want to have books not just about one thing. You want a variety of texts that students have access to so they can read about what they're interested in, and that's going to make them want to be more avid readers, and it's also going to be reflected in their writing when they can show what they're excited about and what inspires them through their own work. And then lastly, just having a lot of different genres, because that's going to show students that you don't have to write one way. You can write fantasy, you can write about history, you can write nonfiction. And having mentor texts that show that are just going to broaden the examples that students can build off of in their own work. So here we have a try it from our text. This is a paper that is provided in this textbook for students to use in the classroom, and it's an activity in which they're looking at a book of their own choice, potentially to start off with, and finding text features inside of it that show good writing. And so what this is doing for students is they're critically thinking while they're reading and finding examples within their text. And it's also allowing them to have an opportunity to put this in their own writing and to practice it. And it just gives all the students the opportunity to do it with a text they want to be reading. So when you introduce it potentially with a nonfiction text, it's an activity that they don't have negative feelings towards, like times tables and math or something.
So for my section of the power presentation, I focused on 3 topics: leads, imagery, and focus. So first I'm going to start off with leads. I found this really awesome quote at the beginning of the chapter in our book that we read that said, what's so hard about the first sentence is that you're stuck with it. Everything else is going to flow out of that sentence. And Joe Didion said that. I think she really captured why writing is so intimidating for so many people, especially elementary schoolers. They feel the pressure of having to be perfect. They feel insecure about it. And, I think we all do to some extent. So I thought that I would give you guys some really great options for getting started. Obviously, there's a lot more than this, but these are just a few that I could fit on the slide that I use or that I really enjoy seeing when I'm reading a nonfiction story or a paper. So here we go. So the first one is questions. I feel like this is probably the most popular type of hook to bring in your audience with. Obviously, just, starting right off the bat with a question that, you answer throughout whatever you're writing this is a great way to get people interested because they want to know that answer. That's why they're reading the paper or book or, whatever you're writing. The second way is a narrative. So this is a really cool idea, just starting off making it relatable by, relating it to a story that you have or that you've experienced or that you've heard. And I think that would make it, like I said, super relatable, super interesting, grabs the reader's attention 100% because they identify with it. The third way I wrote was dialogue. I think this is a really cool way to start off anything because it's not intimidating. It's not a paragraph. It's, little lines, the way that we edit and write dialogue. And also, you want to see immediately, okay, why are they starting off immediately with a conversation? What are they talking about? And then the fourth way is scenery, just right off the bat, setting the scene, giving them that imagery. It makes them want to know why the space is so important that you're talking about. So the second topic that I'm going to focus on is focus. It's really, really important to keep the focus. I feel like especially in nonfiction writing, it's so hard when you're doing, finding all this research and finding all these amazing facts. It's really easy to get distracted with the message you're trying to convey through whatever you're writing. So it's super, super important to just kind of filter out, okay, what is essential and what's not essential, what's necessary and what's not, what do I want to convey and what do I not? And also what interests me about my topic, who's my audience, if it's the younger kids, obviously keeping the focus super, super narrow so they don't get confused. And if it's an older audience, maybe playing with that a little bit more and making it more thoughtful and thought-provoking. But also, like I said, just finding that balance, or else your writing piece will just lose its overall message and not work the way that you want it to. And then the last area that I'm going to go over with you guys is writing with imagery and nonfiction. This is a really, really important piece to me because I really, really strive to make sure that people see, a movie in their heads of what I'm writing, making sure it flows great, giving them those details that, maybe in our minds don't really matter, but matter to them to make it more relatable or realistic. So with nonfiction writing, though, the whole point of it is you're trying to inform somebody on someone or something. So if you're too descriptive, it can be pretty distracting, and it can make the reader lose focus on what you're trying to say. So this is another area where it's super, super important to find that balance of facts versus facts with imagery. And I just gave you guys a couple of examples here. So I wrote both of these. These are not, from dictionary.com, but I just kind of Googled what are some bat facts. And so for my standard fact, I just said bats are the only mammals that can fly. These animals are also nocturnal and have an adaptation called echolocation that helps them see in the dark. Very straightforward, very, bland, if you will, depending on the situation. And then the second is the same few sentences that I wrote, or a couple sentences that I wrote in the basic fact section. And I just kind of made it with more imagery. So I said bats are nocturnal animals that soar through the sky with their long, dark wings. These mammals are the only species in their classification that have the ability to fly. They also have the ability to see predator slash prey with clear vision because of an adaptation they have maintained called echolocation. So as you can see, these two differences. And the second one, I used more descriptive words to make it have more imagery. And then the last thing I'm going to go over is the one thing I really loved about the book that we read was that it had tips on how to help students learn these ideas and comprehend these ideas in a better way. And it gives you an examples and it kind of helps you create kind of your curriculum in a way. So this is one of the activities that I thought was super cool. So back to the focus, I feel like especially with kids, that's kind of where their main where their hardships come from with writing too, with nonfiction especially. They have all these ideas and they don't know how to make it focused in and really just identify what their paper is going to be about because they are so excited or they're not excited at all. Depends on the situation. But this, I feel like I said, that's the area that they kind of lack is the focus part of writing. So This is a fun way to kind of help rein that in. You can go over to your library and you can find examples of titles of nonfiction books that kind of really summarize, okay, what is this book going to be about? Because obviously you can really just see what this book is going to be focused on based on the title. It's really good. It's got a hook to it, but it gives you kind of a quick summary of what am I going to read about. So going through your library, finding really, really good examples of this is awesome. So some of the examples that I found were mistakes that worked. So this is, I think this book focuses more on like mechanical things and engineering and things like that, inventions. So things that weren't supposed to work but did. And that's by Charlotte Foltz Jones. And then we just have another one, a simple example called About Fish with by Catherine and John Sill. Obviously, this is about fish. And then the last example I gave was Little Leaders, Bold Woman in Black History, which is very to the point. You know what you're reading about. It's an interesting title still. And also, I think it's a great idea, if they are doing maybe book reports and they do have to create or make a cover for their book for whatever reason, make a drawing. Having that too. I mean, obviously the cover gives you another really, really good example of what this book is going to be focused on. So these are kind of my tips that I learned through finding the heart of nonfiction.
This section explained how details and precise language are truly at the core of nonfiction writing. Too many details can overpower the writing if they're not chosen wisely, so making the selection of those details is very important. This section lists some types of details like sensory words, right here, precise language, figurative language, and domain-specific language. One thing that I thought was fun that you can try out with your students is regarding figurative language. You can use personification to make the writing come alive with your students. So after discussing personification with your students, this tip in the book suggests reading an excerpt from the model text of "A seed is sleepy," and you can see that right here. You can ask your students how to explain to a partner, or you can ask your students to explain to your partner what information the author is trying to get across. And after that, you can then engage the students to write another sentence or two about seeds using personification. In this section, it talked about endings and the importance of endings and their impact on readers. One quote that I really liked from the book was, "Readers, just like movie watchers, like an ending that feels resolved or gives them something to ponder." The types of endings that this book emphasized was circular ending, so something that echoes back to the lead, a question ending, so leads has the end ends with a question, chronological ending, something that has a chronological finish, and then thoughtful and reflective ending, something that has the readers ponder what they just read. And I liked this book because it noted how this kind of ending is important because it allows the readers to really move away from the "in summary" or "to conclude" kinds of writings. So something you can try with your students, you can have them read from various nonfiction mentor texts and then discuss how other authors create strong endings. So it's really having them come up with, identify the different kinds of endings, and then have them create something of their own. This book, we all agreed that we would definitely recommend buying this book. We thought that this book had plenty of mentor texts and professional texts such as opinion books, science texts, historical, social texts, biographies, books on teaching, all in the back. So it was a really great resource to look through all the different books and texts that were available to us that are highly recommended from this author. Another reason why we thought this book was great because It's a great resource for mini lessons. They had, in each of our sections, they had worksheets and plenty of student examples to use in your own classrooms. So it's great because you don't have to make a worksheet on your own. It's provided for you. And it's also easy to read. Everything is listed out in bullets. It has try it sections so that you can try it with your students, and very well organized. And also, last but not least, it lists out all the Common Core state standards, which is great if your principal ever walks in and asks you, "Oh, why are you teaching this lesson?" And you can say, "Well, let me show you how this aligns with the Common Core state standards." So yeah, we definitely recommend this book, and we thought it was a very great read.